Русский язык странный. Russian is strange. What are all those wonderful letters about? How many words for go does a language need? Why do I have to learn 2 words for every verb? What kind of grammatical gymnastics is necessary when you count things? Which has the longest words, Russian or German? And what complex grammar is hiding in your ice cream? Find the answers to these and more coming up. The alphabet. The Cyrillic alphabet can look quite intimidating at first if you're not used to it, but the cool thing about it is that it was created specifically for Slavic languages. You can compare that to the Latin alphabet, which wasn't a perfect fit even for Latin. The followers of Cyril and Methodius adapted the Greek alphabet, but when there were sounds that Slavonic had but Greek didn't, they either borrowed letters from other alphabets or made them up. Sha is possibly from Hebrew shin. Je. We don't know where that's from. Some people say Egyptian hieroglyphics. Or one theory is that it's a drawing of a beetle, juku. It's my favourite letter, I think in any alphabet. We don't know where che came from or tse. If we compare Cyrillic with Latin, there are some letters that look the same and represent the same sounds. A, ka, m or te. Then there are tricky false friends that look similar to Latin but represent different sounds. V, n, r, s, u, cha. Hard and soft. You might not know this, but tongues can multitask. So when you make a speech sound, your tongue or the rest of your tongue can be doing its own thing. When we make the sound w, often spelt w, in English, we round our lips and let the air kind of get squeezed between them. But at the same time, we raise our tongue, the back of our tongues, up towards the soft palate, or velum. U, w, w, w. Without that raising of the tongue behind, it sounds really weird. U, u, u. You might have heard of light and dark L in English, where in some dialects of English, including my own, the L in lip is different from the L in pill. So you get l with the tongue in a neutral position apart from making the l sound at the beginning, but all with the tongue raised towards the velum when it's at the end of the word, like in pill. That might not be true for you if you have a North American accent or Australian or even the north of England or Scotland. Lip. And that's one example, but it's not the only example. Even in English, we tend to velarize consonants at the end of syllables, but ul is the only one anyone ever notices. Russian makes a whole system of that. So consonants are either velarized, with the tongue pulled back, or palatalized, where the middle of the tongue is raised towards the hard palate. So you get the distinction between le, and l. P, b, b. The Cyrillic alphabet has a chytry sposób, a clever trick. There are 2 sets of vowels. One that makes the preceding consonant hard or velarized, and another that makes the preceding consonant soft or palatalized. A, ya, e, ye, I, o, yo, u, you. Look, onion, luke, hatch. Nos, nose. Nios, carried. Rat, glad. Riat, row, line. Bill, was. Bill, beat, was beating. The whole oral posture, the way you hold your various speech organs, changes. Mama работала до 55. Mum worked until 55. And so for the velarized or hard syllables, you get this kind of speaking like you've got a potato in your mouth. Whereas the palatalized ones, the soft consonants, you get this kind of chirpy. I'm exaggerating a bit, it must be said. Words for to go. Talking about to go in Russian is a major linguistic undertaking. Hello and welcome to Dial a Word. Which word would you like me to translate for you today? Yes, hello. I'd like to know how to say to go in Russian, please. Yes, certainly, sir. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to have to transfer you to another department. Verbs of motion department. How can I help you? Oh, yes, hello. Yes, I'd like to know how to say to go in Russian, please. Of course. How many directions? I'm sorry? How many directions do you go? Does it matter? In Russian, you cannot just say go. We need to know in how many directions. One direction, one set of verbs. Multi-directions, another sense. If you go and not come back, or you are in process of going, one direction. If you go and come back, or go and intend to come back, or wander around, multi-direction. Okay, let's go with multi-direction. How do you say that? Hold your horses. How do you go in multiple directions? On foot, in vehicle by land, by plane, by boat, running, crawling, swimming. How about if I go by train and come back by plane? Don't come rope run with me, mate. Australian slang. Okay, then let's say on foot. How do you say that? Oh, we are not quite there yet, I'm afraid. Are you going in, out, up, down, around, towards, across? Oh, this is so confusing. I really don't know. Or maybe reaching, arriving, or setting off. Converging, or dispersing. Or maybe popping. Popping? Yes, I'm just popping to shops to get some tea, my dear. Yes, that will do. Ладно. Сходить. To go and come back by foot, often for purpose. Я схожу в магазин за чаем, дорогая. Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, while I've got you, how do you say carry? How many directions? Если вам нравится, пожалуйста, подпишитесь на канал. Спасибо. And now that that's over with, let's get on with some hard grammar. Pairs of verbs. There's twice as many verbs to learn. Now, as if verbs of motion weren't difficult enough, each verb in Russian comes in a pair, an imperfective and perfective version. So we're talking about aspect. The imperfective focuses on the process, the attempt, the action, whereas the perfect is focused on the result. Я сдавал экзамен. I was taking an exam. What did you do yesterday? I took an exam. And it doesn't specify what the result was, it's just that was what I was doing. Why didn't you answer your phone? I was taking an exam. Whereas я сдал экзамен means that you passed. You got the desired result. As an aside, in British English, we actually say to sit an exam instead of to take an exam. And I was in a Russian class once in Moscow, and the guy beside me, who was American, said, "What does that examen mean?" And the teacher didn't really like us talking to each other or helping each other out or explaining things, especially not in English. So I said, it's to sit an exam. And he said, to sit? To sit an exam? Is that what they say? They say to sit? And I'm like, no, it's what we say. That's not. And so the ire of the teacher fell upon us. Another example might be, what were you doing this morning? Я решал задачу. I was solving a problem. But it focuses on the process of solving. So I was working on it. I was trying to solve it. Whereas я решил задачу means I actually solved it. I found the answer. How do you say to open? Открывать, открыть. How do you say to meet? Встречать, встретить. And so on. Cases. No, not that kind. Russian has cases. And so does English. We say, I love her and she loves me. So I and she are for when it's the subject of the sentence, when that person is the one doing the action, and me and her is for when they're the object of the sentence, the accusative, the person who the action is being done to. Now that's about as far as we go in English. We used to go further, but we gave it up. Russian really goes to town with cases and declensions, changing endings of nouns and adjectives and possessives to show you the function of each word in the sentence. Моя замечательная жена любит наших черных котов. Наши черные коты любят мою замечательную жену. Моя замечательная жена дает нашим черным котам рыбу. У моей замечательной жены нет рыбы для наших черных котов. Моя замечательная жена делится своей рыбой с нашими черными котами. Мы с женой часто думаем о наших черных котах. Counting things in Russian is fun. 1 ruble is один рубль. $1, $1. The singular, as you might expect. And 2, rather weirdly, still takes the singular, but this time it's the genitive singular. So 2 рубля, $2, 2 of dollar, 2 of ruble. And it does that for 3 and 4. When you get to 5, you finally get the plural, but the genitive plural. So 5 рублей, $5. 5 of dollars. And that continues all the way up to 21, which is $21. $21. Singular again, because it ends in 1, I suppose. Kind of makes sense. You've got 20 and $1. 22 is 2, so it takes the genitive singular. 3, 4, the same. 25, 25. 5 takes the genitive plural, and so on and so forth. As a very slight respite to all of that grammar, Russian doesn't use the verb to be in the singular, and it doesn't have a word for the or a, so no articles. So, она студентка can mean she's a student, she's the student. But what you're really saying is she, student. Я врач. I'm a doctor. Москва – большой город. Moscow, big city. And lots of languages do that, but it does sometimes kind of sound like the way that foreigners were represented in old Hollywood movies. Russian puts consonants together in ways that in many languages would be impossible. So the word for a glance is взгляд. To meet is встретить. Встретить. And to remember is вспомнить. So that's pretty difficult if your language doesn't do those particular ones, and very difficult if your language doesn't really do consonant clusters very much at the beginning of things at all. Think like Spanish and Japanese. When I was looking at weird German, I talked about long words, and Russian has some pretty long words too. They form them a bit differently, and they're put together out of chunks of meaning. So when you go sightseeing, the things that you see, which in English you might call sights. Let's go and see the sights. In German are Sehenswürdigkeiten, but Russian goes one further and calls them достопримечательности. Dosta, worthy, примечать, to notice, and ность, quality, state. It's not really easy to get statistics about this kind of thing, but one thing I read says that in general conversational words in Russian tend to be ever so slightly longer than in German. Russian really loves participles, especially in more formal language, although some of them are used in everyday speech as well. Participle is a verb form that acts like an adjective or a noun. And lots of languages have them. So in English we have running water, broken glass. French has fondue for a melted thing. Spanish has helado, frozen, for ice cream. And German Vorsitzende for the chairperson, the person who sits at the front. Vesti is one of the many words for to lead, depending in how many directions. And ведущий is a person who leads, so like a presenter in a TV program. Морозить is to freeze, and мороженое is that which has been frozen, ice cream. So you think, well, that's the same as helado. No, because helado doesn't say that it was done, that it was deliberate. Helado could have frozen on its own, whereas мороженое has been frozen by someone. And then my favourite, сумасшедший, which means crazy person, and it comes from сойти с ума, which means to go out of your mind in one direction, downwards, on foot. If you've enjoyed this, check out my Weird Languages playlist. We've got French, Italian, Spanish and German so far. Огромное спасибо для просмотра и до следующего раза. Пока!